One of the big reasons the current administration is in the White House was back during the primaries. The current administrator decided it would be a good idea to run on the concept of building a giant wall between us and our southern neighbors. Now, he put forth some ideas that there's corruption and there's violence and there are things we don't want coming across our southern border and into our country. Okay, fair enough. We could make the allegation that some of those things have been the result of the behavior of the United States, and I think there's an argument for that. But it's been nearly 2 years now, and we see something that you wouldn't have thought we would continue to see with that attitude. We've recently seen China make inroads into this region. Panama has cut ties with Taiwan, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Jamaica, Haiti. Down here, we've revealed that there is a Chinese space base that is operating in Argentina. And believe it or not, even Uruguay. It's a tiny country, but it's just one more to put in their column. The argument that I'm making here against the current attitude of the administration is this. If this is what you believe, that there is a threat coming across our border, why Colombia? In 2 years, we have seen absolutely no changes whatsoever in the relationship with Colombia. It leads the way down there in every category of gang activity, drug trade, child trafficking, corruption, by far and away. For every instance or episode of corruption or violence you give me from Venezuela, I can give you 10 from Colombia. And I'm not exaggerating there. You give me a link saying ABC happened in Venezuela in 2000, whatever, 12. I'll find 10. I'll find 10 from Colombia. Everybody is very aware that we have sanctioned Venezuela, meaning that no U.S. interests, no U.S. person may in any way, shape, or form, under penalty of law, attempt to send any type of financing or funds to anyone in Venezuela. Yet, with a level of corruption 10 times as high, not only do we not sanction Colombia, the U.S. taxpayer is on the hook for nearly $500 million a year in Colombian aid. You don't find that odd when you put it up next to this idea of a wall. And if you make that, well, that's just about Mexico. The biggest gang that the current administration ran out was MS-13, and they're not a Mexican gang. Technically, they're a U.S. gang, a U.S. prison gang that started in California, but El Salvadorians. And the little island, little places you see in red here, these are countries that have now pushed firmly away from the United States and have unilaterally recognized China as their primary trade partner. And others are soon to follow. Argentina, Uruguay, Panama, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Jamaica, and Haiti. So how does this help? I've left these other countries not colored for a reason. They haven't pushed away from the United States completely, but they're not our ally. I mean, the level of insult, the level of disrespect that has come from our White House to these countries, regardless of any disagreement, has been entirely uncalled for. And now the U.S. is paying the price for it. Recently, this was uncovered from Colombia. This story here from Columbia Reports talks about these drug trafficking groups out of Colombia that are putting together these tourist packages. You know, buying up a bus, and they create these panels underneath the bus to move large amounts of drugs, and then they fill the bus with tourists so as not to alert the authorities. And then they had this plan where they would say, oh, the bus is having problems, and then they would pull it over and they would offload all of the tourists and then load up all of the drugs, put the tourists back in, and then cross the border. Well, one of these drivers lost control and crashed the bus and killed 24 of his passengers, but in the process, all the drugs fell out and the whole plan was busted. Why is this not the basis for U.S. sanctions on Colombia? Well, forget sanctions. Why is this not the basis for us not sending them $500 million a year? Here's another one, and these are all within the last week. 49 women in sexual slavery in Colombia. I mean, it just seems hypocritical to me. Does it not seem hypocritical to you to say, okay, there's ABC problem in Venezuela or ABC corruption in Venezuela, therefore, this is why the U.S. is going to try to destroy this country, but then not only not sanction this one, but send it $500 million. And this, like I said, has been zero change from the last administration to the current administration. No change, zero change whatsoever. In fact, the money has gone up. This is an old story down there. This is from Info Defensa. And I don't know why the U.S. should warn of this. They should have seen it coming. MS-13 from El Salvador is financed with U.S. dollars and armed with U.S. guns that they buy with U.S. dollars because they sell drugs in the United States. And what they're fearing here is that there's going to be a domino effect in the region. And it very well might be so. Nicaragua hasn't officially cut ties with Taiwan. Honduras hasn't. Guatemala hasn't. Belize hasn't. But I tell you what, this would be very, very detrimental to the United States in the future if this was something that happened and it just became a U.S. Colombia show. I don't know what more to really say about this, other than attempting to report this is something that's very, very dangerous. I know that most of you are aware that there has been a concerted effort to remove Alex Jones from the airwaves, but the effort has come from private platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Google, Spotify, all the others, were private platforms. If you wanted to go right now and go pop a check in the mail to Mr. Jones, there would be nobody stopping you from doing that. Unlike this. If you want to see what real censorship is about, the Empire Files with Abby Martin has been forced to shut down completely. Why? Because the U.S. has banned and has seized all wire transfers in or out of Venezuela. I want you to think about that for a minute. All wire transfers of money in or out of Venezuela are intercepted and seized by the United States. Now, whether you agree with her or not, whether you think she's on the right track or not, does the U.S. have the authority, moral authority, to seize money. Private money sent from a private person to another private person, simply based on political belief. This is what real censorship is about. I've had to have the conversation with myself about what side am I on. I love my country. I love my neighbors. But more and more, I distrust and greatly fear my government. And this is just another reason. When that day comes when you decide you want to financially support somebody or financially speak, which the courts have ruled money is speech, and the U.S. decides to intervene and stop you from using your money to speak, that's when you should really be worried. But we'll leave it there. Hope you guys have a good week. Like, share, subscribe.